All right, law number 4 is the law of temperature. So what I want you to know is that it's never been harder to sell a black box to a stranger, somebody that has no idea who you are. It's really hard to sell them a black box because they just don't know what's inside of it. They can't walk around it. It's not a pair of shoes. It's not a car. It's a info product, and it's hard for somebody to kind of trust you enough. So there's this law of temperature, and let's talk about the ice cold prospects, because that's going to be the biggest group out there. It's the people that don't know about you and your product. And this is the way you grow the company, right? Or one of the ways you grow the company is to go out there and find new people that have never heard of you before. But the trouble with these cold prospects, these people that don't have any idea who you are, is this. It's very difficult and expensive. It's the most difficult and expensive activity your business is going to undertake is the acquisition of new customers and leads. Right? When you go out there and you're trying to acquire customers and leads at scale, it's going to be the most expensive thing you're doing. Maybe your labor will be more expensive, right? The people you're paying on your team. But most of us don't have anybody on our team. A lot of people listening to this probably it's just them or just them and a couple people. And so customer acquisition is an important and expensive and difficult task to overcome, but it's something you absolutely have to be focused on. And so this law of temperature kicks in. The upside to cold prospects is that there are a lot of them. Okay, there's almost a never-ending supply of people that have never heard of your black box. And so that's a good side to it, right? Is that you can find more and more and more of these cold prospects typically. But in order to sell the first time to a cold prospect, you have to be able to reduce risk. Think about it for your own stuff. When you go out there and somebody says, "Hey, do you want to buy this thing?" The first, what you're really doing is you're calculating risk. If I hand you this money, assuming you want what they have, if I hand you this money, what are the chances that I'm going to get back, something greater than what I'm going to hand you, right? I'm going to give you $200, or you're going to give me more than $200 in return in value. So you have to reduce risk when you're selling to cold prospects. So you want to provide some way when you're selling information products to allow new cold prospects to dip their toes in the water with you, right? They don't want to jump all the way into the cold pool or the cold ocean in this case. They want to have a way to dip their toes in the water. So what I recommend is that you do something called Splinter. Now, splintering is when you take one of your larger, more expensive, more risky products, right? Something that a cold prospect is not likely going to buy, right? Because they're like, I don't want to jump all the way in the pool with you, man. I don't know you yet. So what you do is you take a small piece of that larger product, whether it's an event or a consulting package or coaching package or an online course, and you bust a little tiny piece out of it and you put it out on the front end, what we call the front end, for a very low price. Okay, so think about that for a second. I take this larger black box here on the right that costs $295. It's my larger, more expensive, more risky product. Very hard to sell to a new prospect. And I break a little piece out of it, whether it might be a little part of my coaching practice, or it might be a little part of my course or a little part of my event, and I put it out on the front end and I let people dip their toes in the water for just $19 or maybe $10 or maybe depending on what markets you're in, right, in terms of these prices. Typically these front end offers that are splintered out are going to be under $100. So take a look at how Tony Robbins does this. So Robbins is a great information business. So here's his more expensive product on the right. It's $200. Not super expensive, but definitely in that level of I'm not sure I want to drop $200 right now. What he does is he does this all the time. He busts a little piece of the course out which is going to be the book, right? He always has a little book associated with it. That doesn't mean you need to go out there and write a book, but what I'm saying is, what little part of your larger, more expensive product, black box, right, could you break apart and pull out on the front end and let people dip their toes in the water? This is how Robbins does it. This is how a lot of people do it. They use books. They use little tiny, smaller little mini courses or paid webinars, stuff like that are cheap and inexpensive and easy for somebody to kind of get involved with you without having to put in a ton of risk. Hey, we did the same thing over at DigitalMarketer. You got a $38.60 membership, which is really hard to get. It's hard to get people to give you $38.60 a month. They don't want to get into that recurring billing situation. And so we got to let them dip their toes in the water. We give them a little $27 one-time offer and it's a part of this larger membership site for $27. We've, when I was at DigitalMarketer, we were selling things as low as $7, $10, $20. We tested all kinds of different price points. So the law of temperature tells us that these cold prospects are going to be really hard to get to either buy recurring billing or to buy expensive stuff. So splinter something out and sell them something on the front end.